Firefighters are supposed to protect us, but what happens when they stop breaking the law? From hidden videos in firehouses to arson, these are the stories that people don't want to talk about until now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Steve's Perspective. I am a retired 38-year veteran of the fire service. Today, I want to talk about something most people never see. Real cases where firefighters were arrested for shocking crimes. Now, let me be clear. The vast majority of firefighters are honest, dedicated, and brave. But when someone wearing the badge breaks that trust within the community and within the fire station, we owe it to the public and to our brothers and sisters to shine a light. So let's dive into a few true cases and talk about what's really going on behind the scenes. Videos of over 600 employees while they were using the bathroom. Wow. I've never seen this in my fire career at all. 38 years of it. This is just a betrayal to not only the department, the fire service, but to his own firefighters that he worked with. Let's take a listen.
An alarming arrest. A former Miami-Dade fire rescue lieutenant is now behind bars accused of placing a hidden camera in station bathrooms.
NBC6's Ari Adzer joins us live from Doral with more on these disturbing allegations. Ari?
Yeah, Jackie, we are waiting for retired Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Lieutenant Manny Fernandez to bail out here at the TGK County Jail. And if this story sounds familiar, it's because my colleague Amy Viteri reported this first more than a year ago. At the time, Fernandez was suspected of planting hidden video cameras inside fire station bathrooms while he was on active duty. Since then, an arrest report was issued, and the state attorney's office said he turned himself in yesterday. The police reports from last year detail the case against former Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Lieutenant Manny Fernandez. Firefighters found hidden video cameras mounted inside the bathrooms at two different fire stations. Inside Station 69 in Doral, he noticed a suspicious USB wall charging device plugged into one of the power outlets. Upon closer examination, he determined that it was a covert video recording device. It was inside a unisex bathroom accessible only to other employees. At Station 66 in Homestead, the device was mounted inside a women's bathroom. The Firefighters Union sent us a statement last year saying our own firefighters were the victims of these disgusting video voyeurism recordings inside a firehouse, but the union had no comment for us today. The department said, in part, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Administration took immediate action to assist and cooperate with our law enforcement partners during the course of this criminal investigation. Fernandez is now charged with 11 counts of video voyeurism and is also facing civil lawsuits brought against him by his alleged victims. According to the arrest warrant, the micro SD cards in the devices contained hundreds of video clips depicting 18 male and female fire department employees in their most vulnerable state. And also in that arrest report, Miami-Dade Police or Sheriff's Office detectives outlined how they tied Fernandez to these cameras. It was through purchasing records, as well as one snippet of video that shows a hand and his watch actually adjusting one of the cameras. So why did it take so long to arrest him? Well, the state attorney's office said they expanded the investigation. They wanted to make sure that he hadn't distributed any of these hundreds of video clips, and they found no evidence that he had done so. We're live at.
So, you want to talk about something that will rip your fire department apart? That's it. Morale, trust within the fire station, within the fire service, within that own department. And how does management handle that? So, obviously, it's in the police hands now, but it's going to be up to that department's leadership to get that department back on its feet. This second case brings us to Atlanta, Georgia, where two firefighters, including a high-ranking captain, were arrested for arson. Would you believe it? In a scheme to fraud the insurance company. Let's take a listen.
Tonight involving two Atlanta firefighters. Both first responders have been charged and arrested for arson of all crimes.
Fire investigators accuse their colleagues of intentionally setting a car on fire. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor joins us now from the Atlanta fire station where both of those men worked. Angelique?
Yeah, good afternoon to you both. There is definitely irony in these charges. Two veteran firefighters accused of conspiring to set a car on fire. And investigators say it was all done for insurance money.
I will add this little tidbit that these two firefighters responded to this scene in uniform and acted as if they were just coming to put out the fire. Simply amazing.
Atlanta firefighter Alvin Cox traded his fire uniform for a jail uniform last week when the veteran first responder was arrested on arson charges. Fire investigators say Cox allegedly asked his boss, Fire Captain Adrian Strickland at Fire Station 10 on Boulevard, to torch his 2014 Hyundai Elantra, which looks similar to this. Atlanta Fire was called to Thomasville Boulevard at Fulton Bridge in southeast Atlanta, where they say discarded and unwanted vehicles are often left. They found the abandoned Elantra burning back in April of 2023. Investigators called Cox in to talk about his burned vehicle. An arrest warrant indicates Cox told investigators he and his wife drove separate cars and met for dinner and drinks at Harold's Chicken and Ice Bar on April 12th. Cox says he parked the car 3 blocks away at 71 Hilliard Street. He told investigators he rode home with his wife because the couple had had an international trip to Aruba planned the next day. Cox says when he returned from his trip, he realized his car had been stolen, but investigators were busy checking out his story. They say none of Cox's cars could be located on APD's video integrated camera system, nor were there any hits on all 4 of Cox's cars on the tag readers in the area. Investigators say they noticed potentially suspicious activity between Cox and Fire Captain Adrian Strickland, his direct supervisor at Fire Station 10. Investigators discovered Strickland accessed information about Cox's burned car 14 times in the fire department's reporting system. Investigators say phone records showed multiple calls between firefighter Cox and Strickland that coincided with the timeline of the vehicle fire. Another key point, investigators say cell phone records indicate Captain Strickland was in the Fulton Bridge area of southeast Atlanta at 10:01, the same night the arson was discovered. The affidavit concludes, based on available evidence, Mr. Alvin Cox enlisted Adrian Strickland to intentionally set fire to the vehicle. Now, the Atlanta Fire Department tells us this matter is currently the subject of an open criminal investigation. We will not be commenting or releasing any information pertaining to the case at this time. And of course, we reached out to firefighter Cox attorney, lawyer Jacoby Hudson tells us he will prove his client's innocence beyond a reasonable doubt. We also reached out to the attorney for Captain Strickland. Kevin Franks, though, has not gotten back to us. We are live in Southeast Atlanta. Angelique Proctor.
So this is a textbook case of abuse of the badge. When you're a firefighter, you don't commit arson. That destroys everything that firefighters believe in. So once again, we see a couple of brain surgeons here that are going to face some time in jail and have ruined their careers. In Nick's next case, it brings us to San Jose, California, where a high-ranking captain was accused of stealing morphine, vials of it, from the fire station. Now, I have a lot of experience with this, hadn't been the EMS director in my department at one point. And since the transition from EMTs to fire-based paramedics, this has often been a problem. That's why when I became a chief, I had to implement policies, check boxes, lock boxes for the narcotics, and sign out sheets. And not even that, during one of the policies, it states, say you use half a vial of morphine, you have to have a witness sign off that you dumped the other half. These are the policies that you have to put in place in order to avoid this type of behavior. So this fire captain, and he was getting away with it. He was stealing morphine from the different firehouses. So why the paramedics didn't realize that this stuff was missing, I don't know. Obviously, there wasn't anything in place. But, if you're checking your equipment before your shift and you're documenting your narcotics so that you don't get in trouble, you should have noticed that these vials were missing. So this high-ranking captain was arrested after they found out and investigated this. So, let's take a listen.
New at 11, a San Jose fire captain arrested after his colleagues made a troubling discovery. Several medications from their supply had potentially been tampered with. Police identified the fire captain as a suspect. He's now facing several charges, including burglary at a fire station, child endangerment, and narcotics violations. The fire department says an audit has revealed drugs may have been removed from an additional 16 fire stations. In a statement this evening, San Jose's mayor, Matt Mahan, said, quote, lives depend on our firefighters' ability to administer medical care during emergencies, which is why we take theft of controlled substances extremely, extremely seriously.
And that's why I'm saying, not only do you hurt your patients, but you hurt the paramedics that you're the leader of. They could have went to a serious motor vehicle accident, had someone in serious pain, and because you stole the vials of morphine, they're not there. So in this fourth and final case, it brings us to Devine, Texas, where a volunteer fire chief turned himself in and was arrested for sending explicit photos to an employee. And yes, firefighter misconduct doesn't discriminate with rank. So let's take a listen.
Devine, Texas, Greg Atkinson has resigned as chief of the Devine Volunteer Fire and Rescue Department, citing the best interest of the organization amid sexual harassment allegations. Atkinson was arrested on February 27, 2025, by the Medina County Sheriff's Office and charged with official oppression sexual harassment, records show. The department's board of directors accepted Atkinson's resignation and appointed Assistant Chief Jessica Massey Martinez as interim chief, effective immediately. While this has been a difficult time for our staff and volunteers, we want to reassure the residents of Devine that our commitment to serving the community with integrity and excellence remains unwavering, stated the department's board of directors. Training programs will continue as scheduled without interruptions or reductions in instruction, according to the press release.
So, this final case is a former chief. If you can't lead if you're not going to follow the rules. So, I only have, one belief in this is, when a fire chief, a leader, acts like that, it tears the department from the inside out. And now that department, volunteer or not, has to overcome this. Will they lose volunteer firefighters because of this? Who knows? Will people jump ship and go to other volunteer fire departments in that county? Who knows? But this type of behavior by the leader of the department could bring the department down to its knees. So what's really happening here? Why are these incidents happening more and more? Well, let's discuss it. Sometimes it's a weak hiring practice. Nowadays, it's hard to get firefighters. People don't want these jobs anymore. They'd rather sit behind a computer, like I'm doing, but I'm retired, and get their hands dirty. So maybe it's the hiring practices that are the issue. Other time, it's just a lack of oversight. People not paying attention. Like in the last case, volunteer fire departments, they're not on duty all the time. They only respond when there's an incident. So who's really watching what they're doing? Is there a toxic workplace culture that protects the wrong people? Now, most people will say that the only reason that there's unions is to protect the people that don't want to do their job. Well, I believe maybe half of that statement, because I was part of the union, and they do a lot of great things. Muscular dystrophy, all that, and they fight, for good pay and better wages, and trying to get people to be, promoted by, not who you know, but by the correct measures. So I don't really believe that the union's sole purpose is to protect people that are just, there because they don't want to do their job. But I have seen it, especially as a fire chief. But the truth is, when we don't hold each other accountable, that opens the door to abuse, corruption, and then finally the disgrace of your fire department. We have to do a better job at that as firefighters. When you're sitting at that kitchen table in the morning having your coffee before your shift starts, discuss these things. You hear about somebody doing something wrong, pull them aside. You don't have to necessarily run upstairs or run, to, management or the chiefs, or, pull them aside. Try to put a stop to it. But it doesn't have to be this way. And let me give you some examples why. Departments need better and stronger background checks. Who are you hiring? What is their past? You'll get that in your background checks. Have anonymous reporting tools where people can, report misconduct and not suffer on the other end. And training. Training is a form of discipline. So if you train a person to have real ethics and leadership, this stuff will stay out of your firehouse. We, as firefighters, have to protect the badge from both outside threats and internal threats, especially if you have an internal rot that's taking your department down and ruining your morale. They're hard to overcome. but it can be done. Because once the public trust is gone, it's very hard to get it back. Trust me when I tell you that. Ever felt that something was off and nobody wanted to speak up? Drop a comment down below and let's talk about it. This is serious stuff. If you believe in truth, accountability, and honoring that badge, hit the subscribe button and stick with me. I've got more stories coming soon, and not all of them are easy to tell, but they're worth telling because it's important for transparency and to learn from other people's mistakes. Because as I mentioned, training is a form of discipline. So we learn from the past so that my audience out there doesn't make these mistakes. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and honor that badge.
In my eyes, all eyes like the day.